So when somebody says soil, we usually think of the stuff that you're digging up from the ground. Cause if it's brown and has a plant growing out of it, yeah, it's dirt. But the potting soil is very different from the actual in-ground soil. In-ground soil is actually a mixture of clay, silt, and sand, and these are considered inorganic materials. Potting mix, on the other hand, is mostly made up of organic materials. So we're not going to be covering in-ground soil today. We'll do that in future episodes. If you want to learn more about that kind of soil, this video by Atlas Pro makes it very easy to understand. So what exactly is potting soil or potting mix? So all-purpose potting mix, as long as it has the word container or potting in it, then you're pretty much good to go. And this can be used with most houseplants. So like I mentioned before, potting mix is actually composed of organic materials like peat. And this peat you can find labeled usually as sphagnum peat moss. And this makes up the majority of the mix. But some other potting mixes will opt for coir instead of peat because of some environmental reasons. So these two things are considered the base. Then a small amount of perlite is added, which are those little white things that you see inside your soil. After that, small pieces of bark and some twigs. And sometimes they're also going to add vermiculite. Then some sand is added, and all of these are considered the amendments. And when added to your base, they change the soil's characteristics. So you may be wondering, do I need to add extra amendments to my potting mix? Not really. If you're just starting out, I recommend focusing on the 3 pre-made potting mixes, and that's all-purpose mix, cactus mix, and orchid mix. And by the way, the stuff labeled garden soil, yeah, that's for in-ground use only. Don't use those in your containers because they're really not designed for that. Cactus mix is used for cacti, succulents, and pretty much any other desert or dry-loving plant. Cactus mix is made out of peat, then some sand is added, then some perlite is added, then some pieces of bark, and twigs. And as the name suggests, orchid mix is used for orchids, and some bromeliads too. Orchid mix is composed mostly of bark, some more bark, and the occasional twig. And depending where you live, you should be able to find any of these at your local gardening center or nursery. But if you can't find them in the store, I have some links in the description to some of my recommendations. It is an affiliate link, so you'll be helping the channel out just by doing your usual online shopping. So thank you for that. So let's say I do want to use some amendments. When should I use it? Once you get a feel of how these pre-made potting mixes work, then you'll kind of notice that you want your soil to behave in a certain way. Maybe you discovered that your potting mix stays wet for way too long and you want something that dries out a little bit faster so your plants don't get root rot, which is something we'll be covering in the roots and shoots video, so stay tuned for that. So in that case, you're going to want to add some perlite. Get familiar with perlite because perlite helps with almost all overwatering problems. Perlite retains very little water and increases drainage. Once you get familiar with perlite, then you can move on to other amendments like bark, which you could find in orchid mix. And bark helps to improve drainage and can slightly lower water retention. Sand also helps reduce water retention. Sand can be found in a bag on its own or pretty much inside the cactus mix. But oh no, now my potting mix gets dry too quickly. Brian, what the hell did you do? Okay, now, hold on. You can add more potting mix, you can add peat, you can add coir, or you can add vermiculite. And all of these help to increase water retention. And when I say adding, I actually mean mixing it in to your soil during repotting and not just sprinkling it on the top. Which is like not something I did before or anything. But I'll show you how to do that in the next video on repotting and containers. And if you want to learn more about these amendments, I'm going to be making standalone videos for each and every one of them where we're going to be going more in depth so you could understand the behaviors and mechanics and the history of each one. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. So here are the main takeaways. You can definitely just use the 3 pre-made potting mixes. All-purpose potting mix for most houseplants, cactus potting mix for cactuses and succulents, and orchid mix for orchids. If you need to reduce water retention, just add perlite or some small pieces of bark. If you need to retain more water, use peat, coir, or vermiculite. So I really hope you continue on with this hobby. Plants bring a lot of life into your home and surprisingly, they're really easy to take care of. You're probably gonna kill a few plants at first, I know I did, and it was really discouraging. But remember, life isn't a picture-perfect Instagram feed. We're gonna face a lot of challenges and we're gonna make a lot of mistakes because we're human. So just dust yourself off and keep trying. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see next, and I'll see you guys in the next one.